And now, joining us from Italy. Hello to you, Emmanuel Shachaf.
Hello, hello.
And hello to you, Professor Marco Meyer from Italy.
Hello.
First of all, Emmanuel, exactly where are you located right now?
We are located on the island of Ventotene, which is off about a 2-hour ferry ride off the coast of the west coast of Italy. And it's a place I never knew about its existence before I found out about this event here. But it's a beautiful island, and it gives peace to everybody who's trying to work here.
JEF, Young European Federalists. What exactly does it mean, Emmanuel?
It's a group of activists, political activists, and there are about 10,000 in Europe in the group, who promote the federal system of government in Europe. And they've been doing that for quite a long time already, for I think more than 20 years. And they are now also expanding it to other countries, and that's why we're here.
If you would summarize one turnover topic that you felt, Emmanuel, during the meetings that you are having on the island, what message would you envoy from there to the bloody Middle East?
I think the biggest item is the message of hope. The young Federalists are full of energy. They have a systematic way of dealing with the problems at hand, and they embrace everybody who's thinking similarly, and also those who don't, and in such a way make it possible to extend the federalism wider and wider.
Professor Marco Meyer, you are an expert in political science. What message of hope could you deliver to the Israeli-Palestinian people during the October 7th war?
Yeah, I would like to stress, first of all, that we are now in a very important island, because here, a few meters from here, actually, where we are now, the Ventotene Manifesto was written. It was 1941, because the fascists exilated, let's say, in this island, very prominent political leaders like Pertini, like the former president of Italy, of Spinelli, and Ernesto Rossi. And that manifesto is considered the basement of the European Union construction after the Second World War. So, I mean, we were in 1941, there was this awful war, and the Nazis were dominating Europe. So, I mean, the fact that in this island, this proposal for the European Union future was written, it's a sign of historical hope. And then we can go on, but I've been involved in areas of cooperation between Palestine and Israeli delegations in the past. So I'm trying here to update my knowledge.
So you basically are saying that based on the mutual hope of European people during the Second World War, Israelis and Palestinians can learn and to gain some hope even just for the existent island and the meeting that are taking place?
Well, the fact that since the end of the Second World War, the European process has increased a lot, which is not yet federalist, but it's a strong union, to put it this way, means that a kind of peace and the reconciliation process is possible, at least.
Emmanuel Shachaf, while you're talking about peace and reconciliation in the federation movement, as an Israeli, are you meeting their delegates from the Arab population that are living in Judea and Samaria?
Yes, of course. Of course, we meet with them, and they recognize that we are on neutral territory, so to speak. So there is no open enmity. There are obviously thoughts, people have behind, and it's not easy sometimes to keep a straight face. But altogether, the atmosphere is so positive and so invigorating and so inspiring that the bad thoughts are often enough drowned out.
You mean no tension at all?
There's at some discussions maybe it can get a little hot, but it's very controlled. Most of the people here are experienced, and the organization of the event is very experienced, so it doesn't. No unfortunate incidents are going to be let happen here.
What do you think would be, Professor Meyer, from your experience, should be the first step forward in order to try to minimize the violence that Israelis and Palestinians are feeling during these terrible days?
Well, one point that I argue, and I'm going to argue in the next discussion, is that you need to understand deeply the fear on both sides, because Israeli citizens fear what is around them. I mean, without going back to China or Russia, but at least Iran and Iran proxy. So they feel that they are surrounded by enemies, let's say, And on the other hand, the Palestinian has, a part of Palestinians at least, have suffered a lot since 1948, because you must consider that in 1948 only one state was created, and then there was the war. I don't want to go to the roots, but to understand the different narratives is one of the key points. In the 1st of October of 1999, I co-organized in Florence a meeting in the implementation of the Oslo agreements, exactly on the education system, because obviously if you bring up the children with opposite narratives and not a common sense of historical correct methodology, you might get very bad consequences when they're grown up.
So you're saying basically the education should be the first step?
Education is one, so changing of narratives. And another step I would like to stress, because it has been successful, is practical cooperation. Since more than 20 years ago, I was involved in the project called Saving Children, which was sponsored by the region of Tuscany in Italy, the Perez Center in Tel Aviv, and the NGO Panorama, that was at that time led by Riyad Malki, that has been for many years after the foreign minister of the Palestinian Authority. And this project, with many difficulties, I think it's still ongoing. It means that more than 13,000 Palestinian children have been treated successfully in Israeli hospitals, both from Gaza and from the West Bank. This is important because with this project you have, first of all, a good health performance, but also you get together pediatric doctors from Israeli and Palestine, then the mothers and fathers of the children, families. So I think health could be one of the key practical areas of future for cooperation.
Emmanuel Shachav, you're listening to Professor Meyer. You know so very well, as also as former official in the Israeli Mossad, you know the population here in Israel, 24 hours after the terrorist massive attack in Jerusalem, when Israeli soldiers are being killed also in Jabalia, and many parts of the population in Gaza are doomed to go to the southern part. How people can be convinced into changing the education system, to going and providing health to a Palestinian population, how it can be done within the Israelis' point of view 2025?
I think, first of all, persistence is the most important trait. We have to keep plodding along, no matter what the situation is. And we have to remind people that just like Europe got its act together after the Second World War in a relatively short time and started a long process of reconciliation and rebuilding with the European Union, so can we. And the fact that we have, these terrible incidents we had yesterday and that the Gaza war is still ongoing doesn't necessarily mean that we can't change the way very soon and very quickly into a better future. And that's what we have to hope for, and that's what we have to work for every day.
If you would picture the picture when we are going to be meeting again from the island a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, Professor Mayer, how would you visualize the implementation of the federation here in the region?
Well, I don't know if the federation is exactly the right word, but let's say a very strong cooperation, which should be, as long as my experience, I think it should be people to people first, municipality to municipality, cantons to cantons. So it's a kind of perspective that can be linked to a process of decentralization in Israel, and obviously a complete reorganization of the Palestinian Authority. Obviously, you also have to consider external factors, which are very significant. And this, I don't know, I saw the Qatar, the Emir this morning or yesterday probably said that the Hamas should agree with the ceasefire. I don't know if they will obey to his order, let's say, or something. But the question is that you don't have only an internal investor, you have a very strong players around. So it's not only a question of Palestinian and Israeli conflict, it's something.
Emmanuel, are there representatives also from countries from the Abraham Accord or countries from other places here in the Middle East?
Not as far as I know. Not as far as I know. The only Middle Easterns here are Palestinians and Israelis.
Yeah. But they were speaking in the meeting of widening the process, and this is also a federalist kind of approach, attitude that you can consider. For me, a big mistake was made on the Abraham agreements, because how could you think to go ahead? Trump, Jared Kushner, and Saudi Arabia Kingdom, without some kind of attention to the Palestine question. I don't say the state or not state. They just jumped on, and this is a big mistake, and this opened the way to Iran and sponsored proxy Hamas expansion.
Emmanuel, what is your answer regarding the Israeli approach towards the Abraham Accord while you're talking with Palestinians there in the island near Italy? What would be your response? Was it a mistake?
Just like Marcos, not to draw the Palestinians in right from the beginning was a huge mistake, and every day that passes, it becomes more obvious how big a mistake it was. But it's on the continuation of Israel's attitude of denial. Okay, the Palestinian issue is completely in denial. Israel's in complete denial about the Palestinian issue. That's the way we got to October 7th. And that's the way we...
It's more denial of government than people.
The people are contributing also comfortable with it. The government is leading his denial, and the people are comfortable with it because everybody understands deep down inside that not to be in denial means we have a price to pay. and everybody is afraid to pay a price.
Maybe a good idea
In
that
other
you...
words, in other words, the question is how to end the war with political perspective. This is the question.
That's the question now.
The question mark. And the question.
Maybe, by the way, you could consider there in Ventotene Island, maybe to embrace and to invite all the Israelis and all the Palestinians for a long weekend there, and then maybe the hearts can change a bit.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
The place is very welcoming, beautiful scenery, beautiful locations, good food.
Very nice swim.
Yeah.
The question is there's only place for 5,000 people. So you have to have 2,500 and 2,500 each side. And today we are going together with a boat, which I said I called the Ventotene flotilla, which is trying in this very difficult moment to have at least some kind of dialogue between the two parts.
It's an amazing idea, an amazing initiative, especially in these very intriguing days here in the Middle East. I want to thank you very, very much, Professor Marco Maier from Italy, for being hosted here at Contento Now TV. And Emmanuel Shachaf, the last message of hope that you would like to convey to the viewers around the world.
Next year in Ventotene, and maybe with more substance to promote the Federation in the Middle East.
Thank you. Amen. Shalom. Inshallah. Y muchas gracias. Professor Maier, Emmanuel Shachaf, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.